Good day. Welcome to another episode of the Iconis podcast. I go by the name of DJ Rod C. With me is
Barry 3D.
Okay. Listen, we're going to have a great time. We're going to be talking about Superman Infinite City. We're going to talk about the Warden. Manners make it the man. Let's go.
Let's go indeed. Manners makes the man. Hello, cuz. Here we go. So before we get into Superman, the Warden, we're going to break it down. So first and foremost, we got to remember, check out all the comic book stores, right? Support the books. Got to support the books to keep the show going. So please go and check out Check Swings out in Montreal and check out Wow Comics out in Kitchener. And you can tell Trevor and Wes from the respective stores that we said hi. On top of that, too, if you want to find where I'm going to be, you can check out barry3d.com. That's my website. That's where you can find me and everything I'm doing upcoming, including this show. On top of that, if you want to know what else to listen to at times, you can check out the Subculture Podcast Network and see where we're going to be with the rest of those guys. We're all, we're 6 shows all together going strong. And of course, a big shout out to Larry Recozado, our other brother from Forgotten, Obscure, and Underrated Heroes. Check out that Facebook page, Respect the Rules. There we go. And of course, if you too want to do a podcast, you can check out Podbean at podbean.com, and you can find our show at iconis.podbean.com. There we go. Rod, can we find you?
You can find me on the World Wide Web. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Rod C. You can find me on twitch.tv, DJ Rod C. You can find me on TikTok at DJ Rod C1. DJ Rod C1. Yo, let's go.
Oh, I think sorry. Happy New Year. And here we go. Also, the fact of if you need a graphic artist for any kind of work, there's only one man and one man you should reach out to. And that man is
J Bird Digital Art.
Mr. Jason Reese, J Bird Digital Art. You tell him you heard about him on the Iconis podcast, and he'll give you a discount on any work that you need. Come on, worldwide. Let's go.
Let's go.
You kicked it off well. Thank you very much, cuz. And you said we are going with
Superman Infinite City. And we're going to be talking about the Warden.
The Warden. That's right, the Warden. So I know a lot of times we might not touch on these books, but we kind of play on the edges, right? We play on the edges. So Superman Infinite City is a hardcover graphic novel one-shot that came out in July of 2005. In there, they introduced a character called the Warden, and that's who we're speaking about today. Now, before we really get more deeper into it, this graphic novel was put together by 2 great people in the industry. So there was Carlos Meglia, who unfortunately he's passed away, but you remember him because we've talked about him on one of our episodes. I'm getting tongue twisted. One of our other episodes, which was Cyber 6. So he was a creator of Cyber 6 and that art style. It could be cartoonish, it could be exaggerated. I think it's dynamic. He's worked on other projects like, Adventures of Superman. He's worked on Star Wars, Underworld, along with the writer. So he's the artist on this project. And I love I love that kind of style of art. And of course, the writer, his name was Mike Kennedy. So Mike Kennedy was the writer who came up with this whole concept, put it together. And once again, he's worked with Carlos on Star Wars Underworld. So they've worked together on projects before, be it if it's this Superman, I think he's got an X-Men project in there, Star Wars projects. So these 2 came together back in 2005 and came up with this concept, Superman Infinite City. Now, a lot of people might not know of this property. It does happen in the mainstream universe, right? So this is not a different dimension. This is where it starts off at. And I think it's a good read, especially with the fact that the James Gunn Superman movie is coming out. If you want to have some reading material to kind of get an idea of Superman and how he interacts with others outside of the Justice League, outside of his own book, his mainstream books, I should say, this is a good read. And the fact that it's a hardcover, just like we did Digital Justice, Batman Digital Justice, the hardcovers don't get a lot of love because I guess it's the price point. The art, the presentation is good. The wraparound covers are great. The jacket it comes in is really great, a nice collector's piece, and it's something to go and get from your local comic book store.
Okay.
Right. So I bought this back when it came out in 2005 because, once again, I like Carlos's art and I was really attracted to it. And I saw him on other projects like Monster World, the Star Wars stuff, Superman and Tarzan. So he was kind of really getting a lot of DC and their miniseries. And I saw his art style. I'm like, all in. So yes, was it a little bit more the heavier side? Yes, because it's a hardcover graphic novel. There we go. But I think it's one that people have missed because they always go for the soft covers, the standard 28 issues, 38, 28 page, 32 page, however you wanted to look at it, comics, and it should get a lot more exploration. So this is why we're talking about it today. Right. What is your take on this book?
It's very interesting because when you start talking about the Warden, how to look into it, then I start, figure out who he is. And when you guys we'll get through it and you guys will understand, it's very interesting. But the whole dynamic, it's so unique that, as we always say, could this be something that you can, bring to life? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I was very intrigued with the storyline. It made it a very futuristic, different type of concept. When you look at it, you'll see like, okay, this is, how do I want to say? I want to say like it's like it's pushing boundaries and it's not pushing boundaries. If you understand, once you go through it, you'll see and understand like the whole concept of what they do and what the storyline is about. It's very intriguing and I like it. So definitely, it's a good read. I'll tell you that right now. It's a good read.
Absolute good read. I agree with you 100%, man. I can read this book. And I mean, once again, with Carlos's art, I'm a huge fan of it. I'm not going to dispute that at all. So the book pretty much opens up page one. You get it. You open up, you see page one. And of course, in Metropolis, there's a crime going on. There's a bunch of people on the street and it's like daytime. And there's one guy, he just seems crazy. And he's running around with this very high-tech gun. Don't know where it came from, whatever. But he looks like a homeless person with this high-tech gun. The cops are trying to get him to stop, of course, usual scenario. And the guy's shooting everybody. He's like, how can I do to get your attention? And then, of course, you get it. Superman appears above him, just floating, arms crossed. He's like, you got my attention now. I was like, oh.
Did I do that?
Proceeds. Yeah, exactly. Did I do that? Proceeds to, capture him. Not much force is needed. Separates the guy from the gun. The guy's like, give me back my gun. Give me back my gun. And then Superman uses his vision because he's like, I've never seen a gun like this before. Now, keep in mind, at this point in his career, Superman has gone up with the new gods. So he's seeing, new Genesis technology. He's seeing apocalypse technology. And this was beyond him. He's dealt with Lex Luthor multiple times. Has numerous adventures with the Justice League and all the members and teamed up with them. If you look at DC Presents and Superman would team up with somebody every month. So he's seen various weapons from various planets, from various realities, everything. And this one stumped him. He even dealt with Intergang, right? Which is using that apocalypse technology. And he's seen all of that and never seen this. So he uses his vision to examine it, microscopic vision to look at it because he sees there's some fine print. And the fine print turns around and says, made in Infinite City Limited. Where's Infinite City? Now, I know we've talked about this before on the podcast. When it comes to places like DC and Marvel, if you look at the globe, the DC globe is actually maybe 10% bigger because the Marvel globe is based on Earth. It's real places, real locations like they have in New York. They got the same streets. They got a Montreal. They got Canada. They got the States. They got Mexico. That's the Marvel universe. The Marvel universe, you can actually get in there, read a comic, and then go and walk on that street in that comic to say, oh, this is the building. This is the building they drew. Here's the street I'm on. Yep. Now, in the DC universe, the difference is you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that at all because the DC universe has Metropolis, has Gotham. Find me Metropolis and Gotham on a map. You can, and you find out they're close to around Vermont.
Interesting.
If you look at the DC, Vermont is there. And then you see, Gotham and Metropolis for someone, because some fan went out there and he tried to pinpoint it. And that's what he says that, their Earth is a little bit bigger than ours because it has more landmass, more cities. So Superman is looking for Infinite City and realizes, I think it's down in California and it's off like Highway 66 or something like that. So him and Lois, after turning the crazy man over to the authorities, after giving the gun to Star Labs, him and Lois go on a road trip, and he's in his civilian ID. He's in a car, convertible, looks like an old school kind of car you would see back in like the 60s, right? And that's what they're driving. Lois has that kind of style where she's got on the wide brim hat, the tight upper dress, but the very flared bottom half, as a dress, like very Marilyn Monroe-esque.
Yeah.
And that's how Carlos drew him. He drew Superman, Clark, in high pants and the shirt. So, they used to wear the pants above their waist. Like you have the zoot suits kind of thing. And that's how Clark was with his big spectacles, as Clark Kent. Okay. So they go there, they find Infinite City. It's on a map. They get there, they get to Infinite City. And Infinite City, you find out, is not really per se a city. Factory? No. It's a diner.
A diner?
Diner. A diner. And they walk into the diner. Yeah. It looks abandoned, but when they walk into that diner, Superman looks around and he's like, hey, there's ice cream on the counter. It's so cold. I don't get this. They're calling for people. Nobody's around. There's a door in the back. It's halfway open. And Lois is like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe we took a wrong turn. And Lois walks through the door. And when she walks through the door, she's in a different dimension. It's almost like the, Chronicles of Narnia.
Right. Or instant transmute.
Exactly. Like Dragon Ball. So, and she opens the door, takes one step, and boom, she's in a reality. She was on the ground floor, and then she walks in there. She's high up in this zone, this place, and there's looks like giant bats, and people are riding these giant bats, and they're sitting below, and things around, and swirling colors. It's just psychedelic to a certain degree. Like you think you've
psychedelic, futuristic George Jetson kind of vibe,
right? George Jetson, Shade the Changing Man. You're like, what is going on? And they see her, they start speaking to her, the citizens of this place that she sees, and we can't even make out the words, but if you're a Superman fan, you pick up the symbols.
Something looked familiar. Jeepers, something looks familiar.
Looks familiar. And Lois even says that. She's like, oh, there's something familiar about the way you're talking. I just can't put my finger on it. Okay. So, they grab Lois, they take Lois off, and they just show all what happens to her. She gets taken, she gets brought over, she gets put into this building, they put her into this other kind of machine. It looks like a giant shower. And then all of a sudden, she's able to understand what they're saying. And the guy who's there says, I ran a translator program. You're understanding our words. It's not the other way around. We've made it so you can understand what we're saying. And it's like, well, we have to keep you here for a couple of weeks to decontaminate you because you came from the other dimension. And you got to meet the people behind all this. So
the what? How many weeks? The what? Yeah, of course, Lois is being Lois, getting like, what do you mean? Weeks? The hell are you talking about? Hilarious. That's all I know.
Yeah, she wasn't happy.
That's all.
Now Clark's sitting there and he's talking about, I got a piece of sand in my eye. I can't remember the last time I had sand in my eye. It's burning me, the sand in my eye. And that's what he keeps going on because figure, Superman flies at what speed through concrete, buildings, sand, bugs, whatever it is. And he's never had something in his eye bother him.
Right.
Okay, down to Brendan Roth, Superman Returns.
100%. Good call.
If you remember that trailer, the guy pulls out a gun, shoots Superman, and the bullet bounces off his eye. Like his open iris just bounce, and he doesn't even flinch. So how is a piece of sand bothering the Man of Steel when bullets can bounce off his eye?
100%.
Right?
And that's a part like, I'm happy that they did that because it started making us think, something's off right here. Now, at this point, we already know Lois has gone through this particular quote unquote portal and she's gone. And Clark is out he's still in front of the diner. He's still trying to talk away, like still thinking she's just around the corner. She went and called her, hey, is anybody back here? Hello, I'm just coming through. Is anybody in the back kitchen? So he just finished hearing that statement yeah, there's something in my eye. I don't know what the hell is going on. And so it's great to see that you can the writers are already putting in the storyline that something as minute as that, luckily for us, we're understanding like that that that's a little off there. What, something in your eye? You? Eye? Itchy? Your eyes dry?
No,
You
no,
you flying at Mach XYZ? You got dry eye? There's something wrong here, sir. There's something wrong with this
something
picture.
definitely wrong. You know, something definitely wrong. Something suspect. So Clark
Sus.
walks around in the diner. He's calling out for Lois because now she hasn't come back when she walked through the door from his perspective. He's like, Lois,
Mm-hmm.
Lois, Lois. And he goes to the door. He sees it. It's got, like a letter over it. And he sees it and he looks at it and it's red. So he walks through the door. He sees the people. And the first thing he says is, "You speak Kryptonian?" And that's where Superman, Clark Kent realizes something is, we're not in Kansas anymore, and goes through this. And then he tries to use his vision at one point, but his powers seem to be out of whack. So he takes off the glasses. I guess he's trying to use his telescopic vision, or it just happened. And he's talking. He got a little bit stressed, and he shot out a heat ray from one of his eyes, and he's still complaining about sand in his eyes, and he's having problems kind of containing his powers. So he's come to, and he realized really quick, because he's not an idiot. He realizes really quick that whatever's here in this dimension is making his powers act kind of wonky, So he's
Mm-hmm.
like overpowered almost at this point. For the point, like he's not used to handling that power. Like he says the physics in there is kind of throwing his power out of whack. Uh, and he kind of crashes in, to, like, he tries to fly. He flies through something, so he's not able to control his powers properly.
Right.
And this is where we see the first appearance of the Warden. So the Warden, it looks exactly like Superman. Now, at first, we're not seeing him fully, but he's got the same persona, same body mannerisms as Clark Kent. And he
Mm-hmm.
flies, he's hovering above Superman. He's in a red costume, right? So, and when I say red costume, so if you think of those old school, I guess, World War I, World War II fighter pilots, and they had like the double-breasted jackets, flight jackets.
Yep.
So he's got one of
Yep.
those on. It's red, and then kind of like a darker red on the middle with buttons on either side. He's got the old school pants where they flare out around the hips. So once again, like that 1930s look with the pilots
Yep.
with a pair of black boots and gloves, and he's got a scarf around him. So he doesn't have a cape; he's just got a scarf, but the scarf is extremely long, which almost would represent what Superman's cape would do.
Correct.
Blonde hair, and he's known as the Warden. So he works with the police, with the mayor, the government there to keep the peace of everything that's going on. And that's when he runs into Superman. Of course, Superman's trying to figure it out. So, Superman gets up and he pushes over a statue totally by accident, because it's almost like, I don't know my own strength. The Warden tries to contain him, and the two of them have a little bit of an argument. They get into a fight through the city. And it's not really a fight. It's just that the Warden tells him to stand down. He sees Superman push over the statue. He takes not offense to it, but thinks he's not listening, and just like kicks him right through the building. And he's like, no one's ever stood up to one of my punches or kicks like that before. And when Clark flies up and through the building, kind of stops, brings himself up, his shirt opens. So he's in his
Mm-hmm.
normal street clothes as Clark Kent. That gets ripped open, and he's got his Superman costume underneath. So you see
Right.
the red S, blue tights, and Superman's like, once again, he's not an idiot. He has no need to fight. He just wants the whole thing to be calmed down. The guy sees the S on his chest. The Warden, I should say, instead of the guy, the Warden sees it, and he's like, "Great Rail," which is what Superman would normally say in certain situations when he's surprised. Here we go. So clearly the Warden recognizes the symbols, because the S is really supposed to represent hope. He recognizes the S as the House of L, even though he doesn't say it comes out later on. He
Mm-hmm.
recognizes, Superman understands they're speaking Kryptonian. What is going on here? Most of the people there are humanoid, but a lot of them look different too. So we're not going to get too much, more in the story. You just got to read it, but pretty much Superman, I'll make the key points here. Superman starts walking with the Warden. The Warden says, "Hey, let me take you back to the mayor to meet the people, the architect that put this whole thing together. People are questioning, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing." So we know that the Warden himself, even though Superman hasn't made a connection, because of hair, as the fans, you could see art style, they look very similar, but you're thinking, is that the artist's interpretation or not? We don't know.
Right.
But it gets resolved really quick. And then other people see the S costume and they ask Clark, hey, so what's your name? Well, he's like, well, I'm here just looking for a friend of mine. Once I find her, we'll leave. I'm good. What's your name? And he's like, my name? Yeah. My name's Calvin Ellis.
Yeah, Calvin. Yeah, Calvin Ellis. I'm about to say Kal-El. No. Hold that for a second. Hold it.
Yeah.
You'll see what.
Right. So Calvin Ellis, okay, they keep calling him Calvin. And he's, once again, Superman's just trying to explore and figure things out. You see that someone's trying to do a coup to take over the city. So, but it's not even out yet. So what happens is you go back. So now it's kind of two separate stories for the first couple of chapters. Like you see it from Superman's point of view, Lois's point of view. Lois meets this guy who wants to be the new mayor and take over the city. He's got his assistant. She's jealous because now he's all infatuated with Lois. For some reason, he can't get enough of Lois. Everyone sees Lois. They love Lois. Oh, she's divine. She's this. She's that. Oh, okay. So if you're reading the book the first time, you kind of dismiss a lot of what's happening. You just say, oh, maybe that's the writer, what he's writing. No, everything here is with a purpose. Like, I can't stress it, So as we advance from Lois's point of view, she gets like subdued. She gets knocked out. The guy's assistant puts on a mimic suit to look like Lois Lane, and she appears as Superman. Her mission is to get back to Earth. Clark is with the Warden, and they go through a couple of conversations. They try to track down Lois, and of course, Clark's powers are out of whack. So the Warden gets like pissed off. That's like, you know what? You're just slowing me down. You're being an amateur. Stay back. You shouldn't be coming. He's got an ego about himself.
Right.
And when they finally get back on Lois, and keywords a Lois, not the Lois, she's going on about Clark. Hey, let's leave. And he's like, do you think that, the architects will let you leave? He's like, what are you talking about? And sorry, I missed a part. So Clark goes and meets the Warden. Now, there's where I think this is not the Warden. He meets the Warden, but he meets the architect.
The mayor.
The mayor. Yep. Sorry, the mayor. And this is where it kicks into high gear. So he meets the mayor. The mayor's talking to him. What's your name? Calvin Ellis. Okay. Variation of Kal-El. He sees the symbol, sees what he looks like, talks to him, and he goes, oh, yeah, your powers are fueled by sun. They're being affected by this dimension we're in. Here we're in a dimension, it's called the Infinite City. And he's like, what is it? He goes, well, I know who you are. Kal-El. What? And he's looking at the robot, the mayor, and he's like, what? He goes, yeah, just let you know, I understand how your physiology, your body works because I'm your father. What? I'm Jor-El. Pissed. And Jor-El explains how he's Superman's father, this robot. We're looking at him. We've seen him. It's like, don't even look humanoid. Talk to me. Turns around, he says, well, back on Krypton, before the big blow up, I was Kal-El. I worked day and night. I saw you as a baby. I knew what was happening to our planet, and I was trying to find any means possible to save the denizens of Krypton. So before I came up with the rocket idea, I was looking at pocket dimensions. Maybe I could open a pocket dimension and have all the citizens go in this dimension. Some would blow up, and then we can reemerge someplace else via the dimension. Smart idea. Now, before people say, oh, Barry, that's far-fetched. What's the Phantom Zone?
Thank you. No, 100%. It makes sense. Jor-El is supposed to be one of the most smartest individuals on Krypton. And as we see how Krypton was evolved and how we've seen different variations of Krypton, why would it not be possible that he can have a pocket dimension? Oh, yeah, the Phantom Zone. Well, that just answers that.
Thank you. So with the Phantom Zone, thank you. So with the Phantom Zone, it has all criminals. So you're not going to put all the the people from Krypton in the Phantom Zone, you're not going to throw them in jail to keep them. You're going to try to find another dimension where it's not going to have all these murderers and everyone else, the dregs of society who've been found guilty, thrown in there to commute their sentence, right? Like General Zod ends up in the Phantom Zone, depending how you want to look at it. At one point, whatever variation he gets in there someplace, you're not going to put regular Kryptonians in the Phantom Zone, because if they get out, the criminal element gets out. So he's working on another pocket dimension. They found one, and go try to do another one. So this one realized what was happening. So Jor-El, the original Jor-El, made a copy of his consciousness and put it in a robot, found this dimension but wasn't sure, and put this robot in this dimension to kind of explore, and see, I've had Transformers in my head, if anything can be found or be done to help the people of Krypton. That dimension wasn't stable. So this is why he didn't go through with the plan. But this robot, in all intents and purposes, is copy-paste of Jor-El's consciousness in its body. So it is Jor-El.
Right.
It's not a, right? And before you say, Barry, that seems far-fetched. Have you ever met the Eradicator from Krypton? Because it did double as Superman during one of the death of Superman. It did form its own Superman body with its own conscious.
Yep.
Here we are. So now Clark's in a different dimension, can't find Lois, meets the closest thing to his father, because he has all the memories to the point he went into other dimension, and the only difference is he's aware that Clark was put on a rocket ship and sent away, and that's it. So his consciousness still kept going on while Jor-El Prime passed away. So Jor-El would have reacted a certain way if he was in this world, because it's Jor-El's mind. There's nothing else changing it. It's just that his body's in a robot, right? And once again, before you say, Barry, that's kind of far-fetched. Have you never seen Robot Man from the Doom Patrol?
Deep cuts. Cutting.
Right? That's a robot, right? Okay. So now Superman is dealing with his powers, loss of Lois, and that's where the robot put together is like, the robot Jor-El, so we'll call him Jor-El, 2, says, hey, well, Calvin Ellis, Kal-El, got you. By the way, got you. I saw through your disguise. By the way, have you met your brother? What? He goes, oh yeah, the Warden's your brother. Because when I came over, I had a strand of your hair on me, and I made a clone of that, because since Jor-El Prime's son was in a rocket and went to Earth, I, as Jor-El, longed to have my own son. So I made a clone of him, and this is the Warden. So under our physics, kind of influenced by Earth, he's got your powers, clearly. So that's your brother. I'm your father. And the urge is for you meet your father after so many years, lifetime has gone by, right?
Yeah.
That Clark finally gets to say it's not a replica, it's not a memory, it is actually the consciousness of my father, meaning I could talk to him and he's going to remember things to a certain point until Krypton exploded, and then I could still talk to him in this present day, and it's like it's having a conversation with Dad.
Right.
It's off by a couple of variables, very minute variables. This is it. And he doesn't want to leave Infinite City because he now can say, Dad, regardless of how you look, Dad, talk to me. Teach me more about Krypton. What was it like when you were growing up? He can have those father-son conversations that he never got a chance to have. And you see, it really pulls at his heartstrings. So as we go in the adventure, you see Lois shows back up. They save her from being moved from one place to another place. There's rebels that are going on in this whole fight, trying to stop Superman and the people that are in that city, the warden and the police in there. There is another female reporter in the city who's very Lois Lane-esque, but is the daughter of the warden. And she's the one getting the scoops and finding the information. And she's very capable. She's not a damsel in distress personality. It's just that her and the warden are not together. Okay, so now Superman's coming up like, I've got a brother. I've got my dad. He's worked with his brother, the warden, to get back his wife, because Lois and Clark are married in this tale. And that's how it was in the comic book. So he gets his wife back, and she's always anxious about, oh, let's leave here. Don't worry about your dad. And the way she's talking doesn't seem like Lois. She's very adamant on getting back to Earth. And then we find out that, Superman realizes at one point, they capture one of the people that's trying to overthrow the government. They sit Lois, they go, well, Lois, he's not responding to us, but you should talk to him because you have that great reporter intuition. You can interview him and kind of get the information we need. And she's like, yeah, because I'm Lois Lane. And then Clark goes, wait a minute, or Superman should say, and he pulls this little flower that she had on her dress off, and she changes into a different woman. She changes into the secretary for this other guy who's running the armory, who wants to overthrow the mayor and everyone in Infinite City and take it over. And then it's like, well, you're not Lois Lane. Who are you? He goes, the only reason I didn't realize you were not my wife is because this dimension messes with my senses, and it took me a little bit longer to realize it. So all I want to know is, where's my wife? Now, this is the warden gets in here, and I know we're talking about a lot of Superman tale because it's a Superman tale, but the warden is here. So the warden works again with Superman to bring in to find what was going on. You find out that the warden himself was convinced that Jor-El's way was the old way. This dimension is being held by, it's got different entry points in this dimension, and these nanobots are working on this dimension, and the more doorways they make, the more unstable the dimension becomes. So this is why they're very adamant about not doing it, because keeping track of it, because if it falls apart, everyone in that dimension can die, and the people that came across can't go back to their real worlds, because even just using a portal will cause that dimension to collapse and the dimension that's connected to. So the warden has been not brainwashed, because it wasn't, he was just influenced by, don't take any action.
Right.
And Superman had to smack some sense into him to say, do you really think that's right? And the warden kind of wakes up and says, oh my gosh, no. So this is why they call him the warden. He doesn't have a name besides this. The warden is the main person here. He works with the police, and he's pretty much the warden, because Infinite City, in a sense, it's almost like a giant jail. Once you're in, you're not getting out, and the warden makes sure of all of that. So this brings me to this, right? The warden is even though it's a Superman tale, he's very prominent from, like, I would say, almost the beginning of the book throughout the rest of it, even though we talk more from the Superman perspective. But this is the warden. So the warden did have that connection with his father, who is Jor-El. He does know that Superman is his brother, and he's happy about that at one point. Of course, they come to a difference of ideologies. He does realize he's wrong, and he does the right thing after the fact, right? And of course, Clark finds Lois. They get out. All is well. And then the smart thing is, Clark says, hey, this doorway, even though it's a physical door, it opens to a different dimension. He rips the door off from where the diner is, right, from that wall. And he's like, I'm going to put this in the Fortress of Solitude. And anytime I want to talk to my dad, I can go through the door, get into this dimension, and have conversations with his father. So the warden doesn't die.
Right.
Jor-El, it seems like he might die, but he doesn't, right? And the warden, this is what it is. This warden character is interesting. Like, Superman Infinite City is interesting. So let's put it this way, with all the changes that have happened over DC, we haven't seen the warden since 2005. But he's there.
Got it.
Infinite City's still there. The warden is still there. The warden realizes that he was wrong and being influenced by someone else. Jor-El forgives him. and says, well, you can make it up to the people here, and we're gonna anyone in these dimensions that can finally go back to their own dimension, and we're gonna make things better. Um, you know, and work towards that. Now, a wacky moment that was funny is at one point, Superman goes to save the real Lois Lane. This dragon comes out and is chasing down Lois. And the guy's like, well, I had her trained. I had the dragon trained. I don't know why the dragon's like seems infatuated with Lois, you know? And it comes out that Lois had on her perfume. So it's this perfume that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that she put on that seems to be more stronger. That they mentioned, like, oh, it seems to be running on pheromones. And Superman right away is like, pheromones. And it's like, uh-oh, is this perfume she's put on that's got this dragon infuriated with her. So he grabs her and he takes her. It's almost like a King Kong situation. And he doesn't want to let her go.
Hilarious.
So Superman has to go and gets that bottle of perfume and he sprays it in the dragon's face, puts them on him. He saves Lois. But it was the pheromone from that was causing everyone to be extra attracted to Lois, more so than normal. So this is why when she got there, everyone kind of, I have to have her. I have to have her. And it was because of the clone she had. If this book wasn't used for a clone ad, it was a missed opportunity. I know it wasn't used for one, so it was a missed opportunity. Forget Chanel number 5. It's whatever Lois is wearing. I just know it's $60 an ounce, and it's from Paris, as she put it there. It should turn heads.
And it does. And body and soul. And body and soul.
So I went on a lot of this. Sorry, So Rod, what was your take on overall with Infinite City, man, when you read it?
It was like I said, it was interesting, and I liked it. I liked the fact that you can see. It's what's one of the rarities that you have the opportunity of having the main IP and seeing him with a different set of lens, different type of point of view. So we're now getting it's more of like a DC version of what if, if Superman was influenced, like if he was easily influential and be able to just be more of a a little cocky. He was basically always telling Clark, Warden is telling Clark, listen, you stay out of whatever, let me go and rescue the damsel in distress. Let me go and handle this issue that's happening, whatever the case may be. You don't seem like you're up to, you seem like you're more of an amateur. Just hang back, and let the professionals take care of the situation. Unbeknownst to him, you're dealing with the top dog, but it's okay. Only because he's went for the dimensional portal and he's just in a different place, and his senses is just, you just find out like with the harmony key, like the music key kind of thing, bing, just a fine tune. He's just vibration is just that much, just off a little bit. That's what's only throwing him off. If it's fine tuned, oh my goodness, Mr. Warden, you be feeling the wrath of Clark Kent, Kal-El, the original. But I'm just saying,
exactly.
But other than that, I mean, the whole book was a nice, different type of point of view, in a sense of you have to go through the whole story to see and expect the unexpected. When you're now realizing, okay, you have no idea what's the next page is going to say in relating to the Warden, because his characteristic of his whole mannerism, he's all. You see the similarities and you don't see the similarity. You see the things that are slightly on and not on. It's like it's definitely in not the early stages, but in the same type of realm, like a Crisis on Earth, a different world, a different alternate universe aspect. So I had liked that where you're now seeing something with Clark Kent, Superman in that particular vein. Again, I also like the fact that one of the nice thing about this whole storyline is that from the beginning, or more or less from the time Lois went through the portal, you start to understand, you start to get the understanding, the lore of the legend in a sense of what happens in our world and happened in their world. And one main thing was the different time dimension. So basically, 1 minute per se on our side was equivalent of a week in their dimension. So the time that Clark came through, he's like, look, I'm looking for a friend. Oh, yeah. Someone came through about a couple of weeks ago. Couple of weeks ago? She just left me. Not more than maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And you only found that out as earlier because there's a person who seemed to have come across from our world back into their dimensions. And like saying, hey, it's been so long. We haven't seen you. Welcome back. He said, oh yeah, it's just been a couple of weeks. I'm sorry, it's been a couple of years on your, it's been a couple of months on my side. I didn't get a chance to come back. Yeah, it's been a couple of years. Right, years on this side of the planet. So understanding that particular dynamic, it was a great way of, seeing the distinction. And it also helped me, and I'll say this. Jor-El 2 went through that portal in that pocket dimension.
Yeah.
And he began create and get things in order and realizing, let me do what I can. If you look over the span of time of the difference, and this is what I liked about it, Barry made a good point. The artistry of the comics showed Superman and Lois with their derby. I trying to remember the type of car. When you see you understand it's like an old 1960 type of vibe type of car with a very, very round, long hood. So you guys can kind of tell me where I'm coming from. That's the imagery that they had on Earth itself. In the pocket dimension, it's very futuristic. You're now seeing, like you said, we've been introduced to like large flying bats. People are, flying on the backs of bats to fly around, and everything is still looking very futuristic. So I now took that from the time that Jor-El 2 went in to the time we now interact with him. You're realizing that there's been years in the sense of, although it may be like 20, 30 years per se from Clark from being flying out, you're now looking at easily like 100 plus. Technology have gained, although we still from the mindset of Krypton, you can tell that they went even further than whatever they have done before. Because then now time elapsed so much faster, they can progress much better. So you can see the distinction right there. And I had liked that, how the artistry has shown that you can see you're walking in from one to another, and you can clearly see this is not Kansas. No. We're not in Kansas no more. No.
Absolutely not. And then, at the very beginning of the book, they had that guy with a gun, right? Mm-hmm. And his whole thing was he's supposed to deliver it to somebody. We don't know who it's supposed to be until the absolute last page. And the last page, you hear, it flashes onto LexCorp. And someone walks in and it's like, hey, Mr. Luthor. And he's like, yes. And he's like, sorry. So they got the gun. Superman captured a person. He gave the gun over to Star Labs. They dismantle the gun to see what makes it function. The gun doesn't work anymore. And we got an update from, the Infinite City Limited. He goes, really? What does it say? They go, they're not going to be making munitions anymore. They're going into making perfume. And he's like, perfume, sir. And he's like, and as you see Lex Luthor finally turns around, he's like, interesting. That's all he says. So he was supposed to be recipient of this gun, of this weapon, and now you realize they're going in perfume, and that's the direction they're going in. So Infinite City, the Warden. Now, I'll say this. I know we talked a lot about the book itself. Of course, it's a Superman tale. The Warden we did mention because clearly the Warden has a grasp of his powers in that dimension. We haven't seen the Warden since 2005, but he's still existing. So things that still exist or should exist is the Doorway, Infinite City, Jor-El 2, the Warden, his brother should be there. Now, I don't know if that's an oversight. I don't know if they're never going to bring these characters back into maybe the regular mainstream comic book, right? Because he's not in a different dimension or time period. And as you put it, Rod, time goes faster, right? So a year for us is going to be like 100 years for them. We know Superman is very long-lived himself. So, is his brother still going to be there? Will his brother have kids at this point? Because time goes faster in his dimension. I think the Warden can show back up. Since Jor-El's consciousness is in a robot, he can show back up. And we never hear about Clark going over there talking to them either way, but we know Clark has gone through Doomsday. And there's a whole lot of big things that have gone on since this book has come out for Superman, So the Doomsday death of Superman, that was a major storyline for him. Dealing with Mongrel with Warworld Mongrel with Warworld. That was another major storyline. The Sun Eater, Justice League 1 million, right? Like all these events came out after. And there's times where you figure Superman might need some extra muscle that he would turn around and open the door and say, hey, bro, need you. I need the extra muscle to come over and help me. And why has he never done that? Why has Lois never done that? So those are things that kind of roll around in my head. And I think it can still happen. And the doorway is open to bring him literally into our universe. Yeah. So as the story goes on, he goes by Calvin Ellis at first. And then he says his wife, and his wife is Lois Lane. And then he says Superman. So he goes, well, it's going to be easy for anyone in here now to know that if they look up who Lois Lane's husband is, they can see it's Clark Kent on Earth. And they know, well, if they were married, well, that's Superman, right? Even he calls it that he made a dumb mistake by letting that information go. So if the Warden is going to come over, he's not going to go by the Warden. Guess what name he's going to go by?
Maybe Calvin Ellis.
Calvin Ellis.
Good work.
That's assumed identity. Calvin Ellis. I would love to see Clark at the Daily Planet, and this other blonde guy walks in, and someone says, "Hey, Clark, this is guy. He looks like you, but he says he's your cousin. Really? What's his name? Calvin. I don't know. I have a cousin. Calvin Ellis. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I'll be out. Perry, I'll be out for a bit. I got a big scoop. I'll be back. Gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go with it. So Rod, I know how I'd like to see this play out. How would you like to see this play out? Like, what would you vision in this? Be it movies or TV or even more comic books with this character?
So I would, in reality, you got to shake your head for that because it's what my mind was trying to envision. Okay, for the visual and everything along that line, definitely I would just say be animated, because at least to get, when you're now in the pocket dimension, to be able to get the fullness of what the artist is trying to bring to you on the page, I know you're going to get a better visual connection with it if the thing is animated. You could have that realism type of artistry, that it doesn't look cartoonish. You definitely look more 3D and looking more fuller, looking like, you're like, basically very similar to how the print is. This is where I was going to go. But this is where I wanted to have more fun with that. And I would like this. This is why I want it to be a live one. I want it to be alive because I would like to have it again as close enough to the action material. And like Barry said initially, the drawing styles was basically very similar. If like we spoke about Cyber 6 and everything along that line, you'll see how that is. So you got to have a guy with a very upper big chest, then you're just looking like he's beefed up, he's ready to go. And so I wanted that to be live. Now, I thought of somebody. I don't know if you did, because he animated, it would have been, just voice. But then when I thought, no, I think I want this live. And if I want this live, I need to have a person. So okay. I'll just you got someone as well, right?
No, okay, cool. You know me.
That's one just to make it more sure. We good. So I'll start it off. So I wanted to have this person is rumored to be in the DC universe. Possible, if James Gunn wanted to go this route, this is the person that you would like to have as Batman. I now want to throw a whole monkey wrench in this and say, nah, I would like for him to be the Warden. I want Alan Ritchson to be the Warden.
You want my man Reacher?
I want Reacher. Reacher already got the build. He already got the blonde. That's why I was just saying it would have been so hilarious to say, like, we want you to be Batman. And they said, hold a second. Psst, Alan, come here. You want to throw a monkey wrench? Be Superman's twin brother. Yeah. Come on in. Come on in.
That's the ticket.
That's the ticket. So we can now say, okay, maybe he won't look exactly like him. So we'll just have to, let's say, because Why did I just went blank in his name? So the current Superman who's going to be right now DC, we're not going to change him. Definitely be nice if he was, but I'll just say let him be that, and we'll just say, well, because he had a strand, and maybe for the whole process that Jor-El 2 had, maybe he couldn't make an identical clone, because there's always you have twin clones and you have like say fraternal twins in that regard. Yes. So someone could just say that he's a fraternal twin in that regard. But certain features, certain way, that's supposed to be Kal-El. Because now he's just gonna have that Reacher type of mindset, like I'm here about the gusto. You crossed the line, you pay the piper. I'm gonna bring you down, Alan Ritchson,
all right,
aka the Reacher, aka the Warden. Yeah.
Wow.
Someone's gonna get hurt tonight, boy. Someone's gonna get hurt really bad tonight. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my gosh, that is okay. That is
Russell,
awesome.
don't kill me. Russell, don't kill me, man. Russell, don't kill me, man. I'm just saying. Someone's gonna get hurt real bad
tonight. Okay, all right, I got you.
Boy.
So here's where I'm gonna go with my 2 cents on this.
Mm-hmm.
So I see what you're doing. I like what you're doing, and for myself, I want this to play out as true as possible as a call out to Carlos's art, the storyline. Right. I love the storyline. So first and foremost, DC, some of your movies, cartoon animated movies, have been so, right? Let's reset the war clock. I want this as an animated movie by DC. It'd be a one shot. I think we're good to get this story, right? I'm happy with that. That being said, I want them to use the same studio to get that same art style that was behind Cyber 6, the animated cartoon. Because Cyber 6, the animated cartoon, will emulate this because Carlos's art, influenced them. So they already know what proportions of what he should look like and all that. 100%. Everything is right there and then. 100%. How they make him draw with the high pants, the small shirt, broad shoulders. 100%. Great. Right? That's where I'm going with. So give me that studio. They take this as a reference material, make this as a direct-to-DVD movie, and put it on a streaming service, however they want to do it in this day and age. I'm good, but it's got to be an animated movie to get all the colors and all the Christmas behind that. Now, we take this down a step further, and we go back, because now we're going to be a United Superman project. So we're going to get Dana Delaney to do the voice of Lois Lane, and Tim Daly to do the voice of Superman, because they did the voices of Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane in Superman, the animated series. So you're getting the voice actors from Superman, the animated series, to come back, to take these roles, to do this movie once again. So you get that familiarity with the voice. You get the art style from the studio. You merge it all together. You do a nice shout out to, the writer there at the end, Mike Kennedy. And of course, you do a huge shout out for Carlos at the end of it, saying, thank you very much. That's how you merge the worlds. We move on and leave that as is. Don't change. Don't give me a different story. No. Keep it as simple as possible.
You have source material. You have the source material. There's no, especially for this particular storyline, there's really no need to adjust it, because you're now realizing the whole concept. This is not technically, although it's technically in our universe, it's not technically our universe. So you have an open carte blanche. You could just write anything. It's all written for you. No one's going to really argue, because it's not supposed to make sense. This is the main thing. It's not supposed to make absolute sense, because you're now going through a different dimension. You're going to a pocket universe. Things are similar, or things are unbelievable. Some, expect the unexpected. It's written right there. There should be no need to even touch it up. If you want to add a couple more words, congratulations. Add some more words. But 99.9, left it. Just left it alone. Left it.
Left it alone. And DC, don't stretch it out. Don't stretch it out. Don't do a Crisis on Infinite Earths like how you did the movies or the 3 movies. It just needs one. One movie. Just one. Keep it as close to the source material as possible. There's your voice actors. Here's the art style. We're good. Give your shout outs at the end of it. And that's that. So that's part 1. Part 2.
Okay.
Give me a storyline in the comic book where the Warden comes in as Calvin Ellis. He might change his name from the Warden to something else, but here we go. And give me that extension of the storyline, right? Because they've never touched on it since then, but it's there. And I know there's characters that haven't been used in 20-something years. Guess what? This character hasn't been used in 20 years. We are 2025. It came out in 2005. This character is 20 years old already and only did one appearance in 20 years.
Yeah.
Time for a comeback.
Time for a comeback, indeed. 100%.
There we go.
100%.
Awesome. On that note, Rod, any last words before we wrap this one up?
No, listen, Infinite Cities is an interesting read. It's a different type of vibe, and I will just say you would like it. I would hope that you would like it because it's basically, as I said, the new things, it's expect the unexpected. Basically, they just put that right there in front of you. It's a different way of just looking at a different perspective of seeing Superman from a different point of view, more of a what if. Now you know.
Now you know. All right. On that note, my name is Barry 3D. On my side, as always, is the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend,
DJ Rod C.
This has been the Iconis podcast. Remember, like, subscribe, and share. Don't let the show be a secret. And this whole world was created by a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming. We're out.
Yeah, let's get out of this dimension, cuz I don't get out of this thing, man. Cause my eyes, something's in my eyes. Just all of a sudden, I'm born out, guy. My eye burning, boy, burning, boy, burning. Where are you? Can't you see? Oh gosh, boy, I blind.